All right, so while nothing has been officially confirmed, after doing a pretty extensive amount of research, I have come to the conclusion that it is a 99% chance that Jeremy Soule will not be returning to Elder Scrolls 6 to record the soundtrack. Now, just getting it out of the way, I think Jeremy Soule's soundtracks are a primary reason for the Elder Scrolls franchise being as popular as it is. And I know that some people might be like, oh, well, the music doesn't matter that much. I disagree. I think that the soundtracks to movies, video games, shows, whatever, contribute so much to the overall success of said product. Because, I mean, can you name like a super popular form of media that has a bad soundtrack? It's pretty much impossible to do. If you look at Dune with Hans Zimmer, bangers. Star Wars with John Williams, bangers. Harry Potter with John Williams and the other composers that they did after that, bangers. The Marvel movies, bangers. So it's like, it's pretty hard to find, a successful form of media that doesn't have a really, really good soundtrack. And you can go to the video games side of things. The Witcher 3 has one of the best soundtracks of all time. And when you go look at the Elder Scrolls games like Morrowind, like Oblivion, like Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls soundtracks that were done by Jeremy Soule, the soundtracks are incredible and contribute so much to the overall feeling of the game. And they're some of the most recognizable songs and soundtracks. I mean, I go to sleep to Skyrim music every single night because it's just so good. And sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit quirky, I'll listen to the Oblivion soundtrack as I go to sleep because there's such good pieces of music. So I don't know. I am really, really concerned with the soundtrack situation with the Elder Scrolls 6. Nobody really talks about the soundtrack when you're speculating about the Elder Scrolls 6. It's such a rare thing for anybody to ever bring up the soundtrack. But for me, I think that is extremely important. And all of the rumors right now going around is that they're just going to go with, I think his name is Inan Zur, something like that, who was the composer of the Starfield soundtrack, and he will be doing the Elder Scrolls 6. And personally, I didn't really love the soundtrack of Starfield. I thought it was pretty bland. Nothing really stood out too much. So I'm not saying that he can't do a good job, but yeah, I just want to kind of talk about why Jeremy Soule is not going to be doing it and why I believe that he won't be. So let's just get right into it. So I don't really know how many people are super aware of some of the things that Jeremy Soule has done in the past and has been accused of doing in the past. But essentially, he has disappeared off the face of the planet. Like, he hasn't had an internet presence in like 6 years. Like, he deleted all of his social media. He has absolutely zero presence on the internet anymore. After being a pretty heavy presence on the internet for a long time, he just has none. He doesn't post on any social media. Nobody can get a hold of him. Nobody knows anything about what he's got going on. And you can go all the way back to, some of the early days of him being, a popular composer where, like, he had a website where he would sell his music, and he was super anti-piracy. So he would sell only physical copies of his music on his website. And those physical copies, sometimes fans would order them and it would take, a really, really long time, like 6 months to receive your copy. One person, it took him 4 years to receive the album that they ordered off the website. And then they had a lot of customer service issues and everyone was calling him a scam artist and stuff like that. And then he, put together a Kickstarter fund for, fans to help fund his personal album that he was making, and he raised $120,000 in that Kickstarter campaign to fund his next album, and then he never released the album. I mean, like 4 years passed, and he never released the album, and he hasn't been seen since. People are trying to get refunds, and they can't, and stuff like that. But even still, all those controversies aside, that is not why I think he is not going to be the composer for the Elder Scrolls 6. The reason why I think he disappeared off the face of the planet has a lot to do with the allegations that were made against him. And I'm not going to inject my opinion on anything. All I will say is that no official charges were made. One of the accusations came out 11 years after the fact. And so, I tend to believe victims of abuse when they come out about it. But at the end of the day, there is really no way to know what actually happened. And I'm not going to go through exactly what the allegations are. I'm sure if you do enough research, you can find it. But plenty of women came out and spoke out about allegations. One of them saying that he forced himself upon her and used his leverage as, I guess she was a game developer at a company, and he was friends with the boss of the company, and basically, essentially got her fired and stuff, and she didn't want to lose her job and things of that nature, and that kind of led to the situation and the altercation. And then there was another woman who spoke out and said that she had just moved to LA, didn't have a job, didn't have anything to do, and he kind of took her under his wing and apparently made advances towards her that she was not reciprocating, and eventually she stopped speaking to him, and he got her kicked off of a project she was working on. And so, again, no official charges have been made, and there was no official, police investigation as far as the internet says. But I think it's a fair point to say that why would you completely disappear off the face of the earth if the allegations didn't have some truth to them? So again, I'm not here to speak on whether they're real or not. I'm not here to speak on what happened, because nobody knows what happened except for the people involved. But that is basically why he is no longer around and why he is no longer a presence on social media. So in regards to the Elder Scrolls 6, I don't think there's any way that Bethesda takes the risk, especially with, I guess he had some beef with Bethesda at one point because they did like a Skyrim anniversary. Like when they released the Skyrim Special Edition, they held like a special concert to play like the Skyrim soundtrack, and they didn't invite Jeremy Soule to do it. Jeremy Soule, however you say it. They didn't invite him to do it, so he made a Facebook post about it and said that, he basically told fans not to go to the concert, that he wasn't consulted, that he was insulted about it. And at the end of the day, the guy makes phenomenal music, but he does seem like a little bit of a head case. Even if you take out the allegations, it does seem like he is a bit of a head case, and he has caused some issues in the past in various ways. And so while I do think that, the Elder Scrolls 6 may potentially suffer from not having Jeremy Soule as its composer, because at the end of the day, Jeremy Soule gets Elder Scrolls. He understands Elder Scrolls, and he understands the soundtracks. I mean, the 3 major Elder Scrolls releases, he did the soundtrack for them, and they are iconic, and they are some of the most listened to video game soundtracks of all time. But again, I just don't see any world where they bring him in for this. So in terms of a replacement, I know I said that Zur, the composer who did the Starfield one, is probably going to be the composer for the Elder Scrolls 6. But if it's not him, the Witcher 3's composer, in my opinion, is right up there with Jeremy Soule. I think that the Witcher 3 soundtrack and the Witcher 2 soundtrack are both some of the best soundtracks in all of gaming. So you go get him for the Elder Scrolls 6, and I'll feel a little bit better. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try, but I'd be okay with that. And again, I'm not saying that nobody can do it like Jeremy Soule does, but at the end of the day, the guy is an absolute genius when it comes to composing music that fits into the game. I mean, just think about how many times you've walked through the streets of Whiterun and Secunda has played, or how many times you've loaded up Skyrim and the Dragonborn theme plays, or you load up Oblivion and the Oblivion theme plays. It's like those are iconic. And then I haven't played Morrowind, but the Morrowind theme is iconic as well. So, I mean, he has made some of the most recognizable video game music of all time. And if he's not doing the Elder Scrolls 6, which seems very, very unlikely that he would, I think that the game's soundtrack is definitely going to lose its luster a little bit. So I just wanted to talk about this. I wanted to talk about why I feel like he definitely is not going to be doing the Elder Scrolls 6 soundtrack. I've kind of been holding out hope, but I did some more research on his situation today, and I mean, I just don't see any way that they bring him in to do it. So it's unfortunate if the things that he was accused of doing are true. Then it's unfortunate that Jeremy Soule is a creep, and because it's like, dude, you pretty much got it made when you're that big of a composer. I mean, he was at the top of his game. It wasn't just the Elder Scrolls. Like, he was being asked to do all kinds of game soundtracks, and they were all bangers. And to throw it away for something like that is just like, you really couldn't stop yourself from being a piece of shit, So, again, I don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened. But if that is true, it's like, come on, man. So, yeah. Anyway, that's really my 2 cents on it. I just wanted to talk about the soundtrack situation with the Elder Scrolls 6 because it's been on my mind and I don't really ever see anybody talking about it. And so, yeah, those are my thoughts. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe for more Elder Scrolls content, and I'll see y'all in the next one.